Inside the 18. I'm Michael Magid, live from Hollywood, California. With me is back on the field, UCLA goalkeeper coach, 99 World Cup winner, Angel City co-owner, the one and only Saskia Weber.
Nice. It's getting longer.
It is. It's just the more and more accomplishments you get, the longer your intro is going to get. And obviously joining us as well is, you guys know him as the czar of the virtual background, the one and only Pro GK Academy, Omar Zeenni. What is up, dude?
What's up, guys?
And that's the reason that we have that big-time Houston Dash background in the background right there. We have the one and only Houston Dash goalkeeper, Jane Campbell, joining us after getting into sessions. She got coaching going on. She's squeezing this in the middle of the day. Jane, this is awesome. I know we've been trying to set this up for a while, so I'm really excited we finally made it happen.
Yes, super pumped to be here with you guys, and thank you for inviting me. I'm super pumped.
Well, so first off, guys, kind of before we kind of get into today's topic, Jane, I know a lot of people, obviously, they know about your accolades when it comes to the NWSL, you know, the time you've spent, you know, with the women's national team, getting in that pool. But a lot of people kind of don't kind of know, you know, kind of your background, you know, playing at Stanford, you know, kind of growing up and stuff. So before we kind of get into the episode, why don't you just kind of let some of the insiders know just kind of how you came to be who you are already?
Sure. I'll give you a little snippet so I don't take up everyone's time and bore them to death. But I was born and raised in Kennesaw, Georgia. My mom and dad are still there. I have an older brother. He is 28. I'm 25. Military family. I did not get that gene, which is probably a good thing. But my brother's in the Coast Guard, so he's right next door at New Orleans. Mom and dad were Navy, but they are now at home doing mom and dad things. And then I played for a club in South Atlanta called Concord Fire. They're still a pretty good club nowadays. Yeah. And played for them and managed to get recruited by Stanford, and that was a miracle. How I got in, don't know, but went to Stanford, majored in psychology, and graduated in 2017, I think, and then got drafted to Houston that same year. And I've been with Houston. This is now my 4th year with Houston, and I love it. And it's been great. My first call up with the U.S. team was when I was actually 17. And then fast forward a few years, I got my next call in October of 2016. And then I've been on and off with them ever since as well. So that's also been obviously a great dream come true. And obviously coming off the win with the Challenge Cup has been great this year, and dealing with all the COVID stuff and all of that's been quite interesting. But love Houston. I love the city. It's been an incredible career so far, and can't wait to see what the sport has in store for me.
By the way, I love the fact that you just kind of just lightly glazed over, like went to Stanford, psychology major. Like, are you kidding me? Like that's insane. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Like,
I was a psych major.
Oh,
There
you
you
were?
go.
Oh my gosh. Jeez, I'm surrounded by the smartest people in the world.
I was a psych major. Let's put
There
it
you
this
go.
way, though. I started off wanting to be an orthopedic surgeon. And
Yeah, I tried and failed out. So
yeah, me too. I was like, that first semester bio did not happen.
yeah,
It's like the weeding out class.
yeah.
Omar, what was your major?
We'll leave that up to the Ronnie Fairs of the world.
Basic communications, which I'm doing my, I think I'm doing exactly what communications is supposed to be doing. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah, smooth sailing.
Dude, I was a communications major with a minor in theater. My parents were like, "Oh, he's never going to
Wow.
work."
But you're doing that too.
Yeah,
Oh, he's never going
I
to
am.
work. Exactly. That's funny.
Well, let's get into today's topic, guys. Today's topic is loading and releasing. Honestly, the reason Jane wanted to have you on for this topic is because, I mean, I don't want you to, to feel all bashful or anything like that, but I think you're one of those dynamic goalkeepers in the world. I mean, you're absolutely so explosive. You're absolutely brilliant when it comes to being able to control your body and push off properly and get kind of all that little extra inch of body weight into your push-off. So kind of maybe so for some of the parents out there who might not be familiar with the terminology that we're using as goalkeeper nerds, can you kind of explain what we mean by load and release?
Oh gosh, put me on the spot. You guys might have to clarify the release part. But the load for me
Mike
when
kind of
a
makes up
coach,
words, so it's
yeah,
I do.
okay.
which
I make
again,
I make up sayings. Yeah.
He's got his own saying. You're like, oh, that's what you meant. So it's
yeah,
okay.
which like you learn. I knew I was going to learn something today, so I'm again super pumped to be here. But for me, load and release, I think as I've gotten older, going from the club game to college, from college to pro, and then even from jumping from the pro level in with the US, it's just such a different atmosphere and a different environment, and you can get away with certain things and you definitely get exposed to certain things. So I think the load for me is it's kind of evolved from learning this like diving step of this like big lunge looking step, which is what I was taught when I was young. A coach tosses you the ball and you take this
Power
big,
step.
gigantic step. Yeah, power step to get through the ball. And, you kind of fall through the ball. And then I was taught as I got older that, I just got exposed doing that. It just was slow and nothing could release from that push and nothing exploded. So I've now been taught, the last 4 years, especially being in the pro game, to take a really small step. I mean, even it might not even be a step. It might just be a lean over the knee and over the toe. And then from there, you really spring out of it. So it's almost a shorter load, which creates more energy for then that creates the big explosion. So for me, I guess that I would consider that the release. I hope that's correct.
No, no.
Absolutely. And I totally agree with you. Like, it's the shorter step that gets you that momentum along with driving through your upper body. So when, you don't want that back in the day, that power step and power diving and this and that and the other. Now it's more take that short, quick step, push from there, but two hands to the ball, and you go with entire momentum through your body. And that's where the power and the explosiveness comes from. And the release. It's not all leg.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
too slow. It's not all leg.
Yeah.
Omar, I know you've been obviously, with your breakdown on your channel and stuff like that, you've been trying to showcase to young kids out there just how being less is more, and the more efficient you can be with these movements can allow for more dynamic movement off the push off.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times, even in training sessions, I think the goalkeepers play the drill without the idea of the big picture. And I've tried to tell them, like, look, I'd rather you hold and really try and load and then push versus just always just trying to make the save. Like, I'm trying to make you see the big picture of, I'd rather you see the ball and then react versus trying to be so jumpy, and then that load and release is happening so fast that you can't actually control it. So I think that's where I'm trying to get the goalkeepers to be a little bit more cerebral about their approach and like understanding that I'd rather the ball go just past you and, in training sessions and you're actually doing it right than you trying to always just try to make the save and you're not actually building anything. So we're just trying to get those fast twitch muscles to respond when we need them to. But I think building that foundation from the start is super important. And like Jane said, just making sure that we're not taking, one little shuffle and then a huge step, but rather instead of that big step, maybe 2 extra little shuffles so we can shift our weight and again, get our body to that ball.
And also, we've talked about this so many times. It's this cleaner and safer way to save a ball. Like, those big explosive like power steps and flying, like, you don't want to do it. And mom and dad might be clapping in the stands like, oh, look at my kid. But, but to me, it's a waste of energy, and it's the hardest thing you can do. Like, make it as simple as possible. Get those little steps in, control your explosion. And I totally agree with you, Omar. See the ball. Because a lot of times they want to explode and they're over committing. And you see them like the ball is here in the middle of the body and stuff like that. It's ridiculous. It's like, where are you going?
For sure.
I think especially with younger keepers, Jane, I don't know if you've noticed this as well too, but especially the more athletic ones, like they just love, because they have that ability, they just assume that that's how they get the job done. And I know I don't want to discourage that athleticism. That's great and everything like that, but I want to harness it and kind of centralize that energy. So I want to ask you, like, so what variables come into play, like when you're loading your body to get kind of like that coil so that you're nice and contained before you actually push off?
Yeah, I think especially comparing or at least watching the men's side of the game, you always see them, they're very almost like too relaxed, in my opinion. They just look too relaxed, and then magically they'll make the save. So for me, we all have different shapes and different set shapes, which is so awesome about the position. But I think for me, when I'm just watching the game and watching it come towards the frame, I can be, you know, that quote unquote relaxed look. But then the second they're within some form of shooting distance or some form of playing a through ball, I have to kind of start to lower my upper body a bit and then kind of engage my feet to know that, okay, my feet are in the ground. They're ready to push off. They're ready to dive. They're ready to move left, right, front, or center. And so for me, that's just the cue for me. Obviously, it's very different for every other goalkeeper. But I think not loading too much, because then you don't, you know, I think a lot of coaches say don't let your feet get in concrete, which means, you know, you're late to react. And kind of what Omar was saying, you would rather have the ball just go right by you because you know you're just about there and you're seeing the ball rather than trying to react or anticipate. And now you're overshooting the ball, right? And it's all about just loading, not necessarily perfect timing, but loading so your body feels ready for whatever is going to come, whether it's a deflection or a through ball or maybe that upper 90 save, or maybe it's just a nice, easy catch and frame.
Yeah. No, I think you brought up a really good point. And Saskia, I know this is something that you've been such a big stickler on, is just that backward weight. And when young goalkeepers, when they load, and then all their weight goes into their heels. And then,
you know, yeah. And, you know, and then now your movement is just all over. Now your movement's not efficient. It's going backwards and you're getting, I don't want to call that out. Yes, I was seeing it. I was seeing it in a training session where even the understanding, like you'll see keepers and they'll be on the balls of their feet, but that doesn't mean your weight is forward. You see what I'm saying? So they're on the balls of your feet. Great, I'm glad you're on the balls of your feet, but here's your body weight is still straight up or it's still back. And they have to understand that it's that falling forward kind of almost sensation that allows you to take that quick step and power through a ball or load. Because if you're here and straight up, it's just, you're not going to get the energy to the ball.
Yeah, it's almost like they're on the balls of their feet, but sitting in a chair.
Exactly.
And it's like you need it the other way.
You need tipping forward. Yeah. I'm like, you might as well be flat-footed on your heels the way your upper body is.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it, and I want to bring up a clip right here of Jane, if you're totally cool with that, showing some.
Sure, don't know what
right
it
here.
is. I hope it's good.
You'll see in a second. But Omar, you know, that's one of the things that I think that you've noticed as well too, is how many. I think it comes from strength training, and a lot of goalkeepers, they think, oh, squat. Okay, so everything I'm doing in the gym, squatting with so much weight behind me, so it's all about thrusting those hips back and dropping back and basically sitting into it. But the problem with that is that then they go too deep, and when you get too deep, it's like a point of no return, right? Now where you can't spring right back up, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah, no, I think that's.
Sorry. Go. No, I'm sorry.
Saskia, go ahead.
No, go, Omar. It's for you.
No. I mean, the examples that a lot of us probably use is, you know, we stop the session, we tell our goalkeepers, look, for me, I like to do two examples. One is pulling a chair, obviously, like we just talked about. But the other one is like, you know, hey, when I try and make you flinch, you know, we've always played that game with our friends, cousins, whatever, siblings, and we like, you know, fake punch somebody, and then if they flinch or they shoot their head back, then you get to punch them. I don't know if you guys ever played that game, but I did.
What violent family did you live in?
Do you play that with your
with my friends? No. Oh, no. I show them. I say.
Two for flinching.
That's when I turn the camera off, by the way. But no, that's.
I don't want to practice. Omar hits me.
Jane's got a session later with the Houston Dash youth keepers.
Yeah.
It's like, here's what I learned on the podcast here, guys. This is what we're gonna do.
Let me bring this full circle so it's not crazy. But no, so I tell them, like, look, you know, if you've ever played that game, first thing that happens if someone tries to punch you is that your head goes back, and as soon as your head goes back, your whole body shoots back. So I say, when you get from point A to point B on your positioning, try to really just stay as stable as you possibly can. And I think I was with Chris Sharp from the Rapids, and he was like, you know, instinctively, anything that's thrown at you or anytime someone does anything, you know, towards your face, right away, you're going to flinch and throw your head back. So can we get to a point? That's why in training, I say, think about the big picture, where there's going to be times where if your flinch goes from 1 to 3, can we get it from 1 to 2 and then eventually from like 1 to 1 and just keep it there? But when that shot comes, like Saskia said earlier, do not flinch, hold your ground, and making sure once that shot comes, we take our hands and our head and our whole body towards our point of contact versus prematurely anticipating and sitting back, flinching right when that shot comes. And now, because we're sitting back into that chair, we're sitting on our heels, our arms are almost having to reset and then go to the ball. And that extra second is going to cost us, that extra second. So again, it's just really trying to be brave, move quick to your spot. And then from there, like Jane said, don't get your feet stuck in concrete, but that happens by moving fast. And then from there, presetting and prep setting, for me at least, to get your feet lighter. And then from there, you're going to be able to really just focus directly on the ball. And that shot comes, you're not going to flinch, and you can take your hands directly to the ball versus sitting back.
Yeah. Speaking of not flinching, I'm going to share the screen right now, right? And we're going to get to relive the famous Rachel Corsi PK that I'm sure you've seen 1,000 times. And usually we wouldn't use a PK as an example for something technical.
Why not?
But why? That's why I want to do here, because the form is so darn good. And also, Saskia is such a big proponent of not actually moving.
Not guessing.
Not guessing. Essentially, basically,
Not
and Jane, you do a fantastic.
I didn't say not moving. I said
okay. Well, no, I didn't mean like not moving, like you just stand right there. But I mean like
we were the queen of my generation. Were the queens of taking a giant step forward, as you know. That's how we won the World Cup. But okay.
So let's watch this in real time first, because I want everyone to hear basically who's watching this right here to see just the great shape that Jane has when she loads here. Look at load and push off, boom. That's such a great save. I mean,
It really is.
the height that we love, as goalkeepers, so we get to look all exciting and stuff.
Honestly, it's not the best PK, her taking it, but it had pace on it, and it's going to the side netting, so 90% of goalkeepers probably wouldn't have made the save. And it's an amazing save, regardless of the height it's at.
Mike, what I want to bring up though in that situation especially is the fact that when she shifts with her feet still underneath her, so her body's all moving together, versus shifting and then taking a big step. And now, I've seen goalkeepers all the time, we all have, where you shift one and then that right leg extends and that left leg gets isolated and stuck behind you, and now your body's cut in two. So the fact that you were able to shift with your whole body moving together allows you to extend, and everything. It's like there's good harmony within that whole step.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, it's nice.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's great. And I think the thing is too, Jane, with this is that, and Omar, I love the fact that you brought up that point right there. I just want to watch this in real time again, because I just think it's such a darn good save. Hold on, then we got to see how excited Jane gets about it. There, look at that. Look how excited she got on that. But no, is that you brought up the fact of like, it's not a little prep step and then a big push off step. It's all about balanced movement, Jane, and you're so darn good at that. You're so darn good. And I think that's why even in the run of play, when you have to, some goalkeepers, like they pulse and like up and down like ridiculously, and you're not like that. Like you're very controlled with your movements. And like, I mean, I'm sure that just took like a lot of work just over and over again on the reps, right?
Yeah, I mean, when I was younger and at Stanford, I used to pulse a lot. And I think I learned that from a US camp at one point, just watching other people do it. And everyone has, I think I call it a tick, everyone has something, whether you like tuck your shorts really quick or bat your hands together or you pulse or something, everyone does that. And one of my coaches at one point was like, that just takes time doing that. It just takes time away from what you need to do in front of you, as simple as that sounds. So I was like, okay, so I actually do like a split step, and I actually don't really do it consciously, almost like a tennis player. And that I used to play tennis back in the day, so that's probably where it came from. But I've now tried to make sure that split step doesn't get too wide, because at one point last year and a little bit before in my second year, I was getting really wide where now I couldn't shift.
There's no lateral movement.
Yeah, exactly. And I was really struggling, and I was, my footwork, I really love footwork and I think I'm really good at it, but for whatever reason, I just wasn't crushing it. And so I was like, okay, I have to change something. So I changed that. I made sure.
Were you taking like a double set like a set?
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd go set and then set real wide.
And then set real wide.
Yeah. And there were like some pictures of me where I'm like way wide. And I'm like, holy crap. Like I had no idea I was that wide. So this last off season, I really worked on keeping that tucked in. And I think it's really helped just in the off season last year. And then obviously in the Challenge Cup, I felt really comfortable with it. But I do think, pulsing's interesting. My coach is always like, you have to keep 2 feet in the ground at all times. And once you're moving, obviously your feet come out, but it's such a simple concept, but I don't think, especially younger goalkeepers, really understand what that means. I realized what it meant once I saw it on video. Like my foot literally came out of the ground and I was only using one leg to move right or left, and it just was so inefficient. So for me, I got rid of the pulse immediately and was able to now really focus on keeping 2 feet in the ground and then just having a second set very quickly to shift and go.
Yeah. No, Mike, it's like what we were talking about with Franz Hook. We brought this up during the MLS Cup as well, was that, it's that some people do that hop, whether it's the pulsing, whatever you want. And the one goal I was telling you about, now I can't remember, he was actually off the ground when the header came off his head.
Yeah.
And by the time the ball was skipping, he's landing. And so you're done. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you're done on that. And so I'm on the same page as you, Jane. Like there's gotta be feet on the ground. And that's, even Franz Hook brought that up, that hop into a set, you're going to get caught, and it takes time, and you can get caught in between. And so there's always a foot on the ground. Absolutely. If I'm stepping and setting, but I'm never hopping into anything.
Well, you brought up a really good point. And Omar, I kind of want to bring this up with you right now, because I think a lot of young goalkeepers, they don't realize that they have to reload every time that they're doing literally knee bends, they're doing the knee jump, raises, right? And then they're coming back down on the ground, and they have to reload every time, right? Yeah.
I've actually been really trying to, I'm from watching a lot of film, and I have a lot of goalkeepers who are not very flexible. They can't get to the ground very well. So I was trying to figure out what is it about their set position and why they sometimes are even loading for those shots above the waist where they're taking a huge step. So I was like, okay, obviously we talk about De Gea, Kepa, Neuer, all the guys who do the arm swing or the jumping wide. And like Jane just said, it's, when you watch it in slow-mo, most keepers, they have so much energy prior to a shot that they have to release it somewhere. Some do the arm swing, some do the wide jump, but sometimes, it works for them. But for me, I started realizing a lot of the keepers that I was training had never been, afforded the opportunity to try new set stances. So I said, look, I want you guys to try a little bit more of a wider stance, because I think for you to get down to the ground and be comfortable with those low shots, you have to have a wider base, because right now you're so narrow that your energy has to go somewhere, and you're jumping wide. And as you jump wide, your feet are getting rooted into the ground, and your lateral movement's completely shot. You can't do anything about that. And by the time you get those feet back to neutral, back to where you need to be, that ball's past you. So I've been really, really focusing on that and trying to get my goalkeepers to do it. And I've started to notice that even if you watch professional goalkeepers with that wider stance, their load step right off the bat, their left leg, let's say, is going to the left side. Their left leg steps into that wide base and then extends. I don't know. I wish I had a clip for you guys to show you, but by staying wide, your body is already naturally there, and now you're pulsing up and down, versus as the shot comes, you're pulsing into a stance. So I've been really, really keen on that lately, and I feel like it's really benefited the keepers that I've worked with, because now they feel more comfortable in that lower base. So that ball comes down the middle. All they have to do now is get that step in the ground. If that ball goes outside their bubble, it's a shift, and go, versus narrow. And then once they shift, that left leg gets stuck behind, and that right leg takes that huge step. Again, I wish I had more video to show you, but I don't.
Hold on.
Hopefully that made sense.
What do you mean you don't have more video?
I'm wondering, though, if we're on the same page with this. I think Jane's saying is that she was double setting, so she would take her set and then she would take another, boom, boom, and that she's finding that load again, and you're so wide that your lateral movement's crap. You can't explode from that. And I see that with a lot of players and a lot of kids. You're saying take wide and then load from there. Is that what you're trying to say? Because I'm not on that page. I think
I'm not on that page either. I don't like a wide stance like that.
I don't like an overly wide stance. I'm not talking narrow. I'm talking a comfortable stance, an athletic stance, but going too wide just limits that lateral movement for me.
I think it's no, for sure. It's case by case. And I think some of the goalkeepers that I have been working with, one of the girls that I have, she's in college and she's, aspirations to play at the next level, but for some reason the flexibility is not there. So it's all case by case. So for her, I said, you know what, you're very, very stiff. Let's try this. And, wider stance, not so wide where it's just outside the shoulders, but, wide enough where they can sit into that. Yeah. It's not, again, I wish I had a video to show you, but I've been really big on
Omar, how do you not have video? You do this for a living. You literally do this all day long.
I know. I have it somewhere here.
He didn't get a 4.0 in communication.
But no, I did not. I did just what I needed to do. But no, I think that's but that's what it's been for me, is just getting the goalkeepers to understand that if you can reverse engineer where a lot of the goals are happening on themselves, or where a lot of the mistakes are happening, we can reverse engineer and say, okay, well, we already know that it's because you're super stiff or your set stance is too upright. I call it like 3 levels. Level 3 is the highest. Level 1 is like, where I want you to be. Level 2 is neutral. Start at level 2, so that now at least we can go down to level 1 if we need to. And then level 3 is not so hard to get to as well. But again, that's where I'm kind of, again, with video, but I've been really trying to encourage a little bit more of a wider stance, so that the mind is like, oh, we're already kind of wide, so the energy doesn't have to go into that wide jump or into a big step, but rather we're set, we're comfortable in this position. That's why I say, wall sits are probably good, so that you can get your quads and your hamstrings, everything comfortable with all that weight shifting from point A to point B. So when you shift to the angle and that shot comes, you're stabilized, and that shot comes, now you can react, versus falling into that movement. And now you're having to, fall into a save or an emergency save.
Jane, I have a question for you though, because you're obviously playing at the highest level right now whatsoever. I think personally, like Omar, you are saying it's case by case, but I think also your physical structure and how your body feels comfortable moving really plays into this, doesn't it?
I would say so. I mean, listening to Omar speak is really interesting. Obviously, he's you're much more experienced in coaching than I am, but when I think of going wide, it just really makes me uneasy. There was a point at the end of my rookie year in Houston where I went within shoulder width to fix my set. And that was way narrow for me, but I was able to get my footwork on a good rhythm. And that then helped me then get this double set, I guess is what we call it, to where my feet aren't going so wide. But I do think it's totally case by case. I mean, there's some keepers in the league now who set way wide. And I think the whole trend of what De Gea started with, making all these kick saves, but his shape is so wide. So I mean, that's his bread and butter. I'm not good at that whatsoever, but again, it works for him. It's efficient for him, but he's wide. I mean, that's really wide. So
and you have to make a kick save there.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. And there's no way he'll be able to move right or left. It's just getting his foot out of the ground and having it deflect. So I think, whether it's the more modern or maybe more old school, I'm not sure. But I think nowadays it's a kind of a blend of both, which is interesting because everyone is leaning towards these kick saves, these kind of blocks, spreading, you name it. Even shots from distance are now becoming kick saves in this game. So it's just interesting.
You saw my reaction.
It definitely is a comfort thing.
I saw it at practice today. I saw it at practice, and I was like, no. And I was like, where did that shot come from?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Get your body shaped proper, get your weight forward, and front smother that. But now you just, did a kick save and it's back out into play. That's ridiculous.
Sure.
It's ridiculous.
I think it has a lot to do with what we talked about a few minutes ago about keeping our head in balance. I think if our head pulls back, you're done. I mean, anything in front of you now is going to be a deflection, and unless you're lucky. So I think that has to do with me personally, that has to do with my set shape being forward. I mean, I know immediately if my head goes back, I'm done. So if I can keep my head in and, be focused on that, then at least I know everything can go forward and it can be the ugliest save, but I might just fall on it instead of having it deflect. So for me, I totally agree. I definitely think it's a comfort thing, but I do think there are yeses and nos to certain set shapes, depending on the player. Yeah. But I think it's very interesting.
I agree with you. I don't think it's such a gray area. Yeah. Like, I get it. Like, all goalkeepers are different, but I wouldn't call it such a gray area. Like, I'd be like, why are you kick saving that? You're kick saving that because your body weight's back. You're landing on your ass.
Yeah.
That's not proper. That's not how your weight should be. That's not how your set position should be. Nothing. That's why you're making the save. Great, you make a kick save, which you could have bent over and picked up. So no, I don't think it's totally, it's not black and white, but it's not, well, whatever,
Right.
They do it well, so it's fine. I mean, I would rather not have the rebounds personally.
Exactly.
So speaking of not having the rebounds, I want to talk about how proper load can basically help in a steer right here. So Jane, I want you to kind of walk us through this save right here, basically. So we're going to go right here. So this is the play. It was Weber to A-Rod, lay back off from A-Rod to Weber. Yeah. Different Weber.
No relation.
So here you're set. Nice solid position right there. Push. And then follow through right there. Nice steer away from pressure right there. So kind of walk us through this kind of save, kind of from here.
Yeah, I've played against Mal for a few years now, and I know she's very shifty. So and obviously A-Rod, her combining with her A-Rod could do all sorts of things with that, and as well, very shifty player. So my first thought was on Mal's touch, can I take as much ground as possible? So off the touch, that was me coming out, and I've worked a lot on that. I've been really not in control in a lot of goals against in the last few seasons. Because of that, I'm always so eager to go, and then I get caught in a step, whether in
you get caught moving.
Exactly, I get caught moving, and I'm not set, I'm not balanced whatsoever. I'm just really going. So for me, I just really wanted to be controlled and relaxed. So I just chewed up as much space as I could, and I actually got a good read. She was on her left foot, so I kind of saw where she was going to go. But again, you can't really guess in those moments, because if I would have guessed too early, she could have just pinged it to my right and would have slotted it in. So I think for me in that moment, I have gotten a little bit more comfortable using my feet when it's in tight spaces like this. So
Yeah,
for me, if I can just be relaxed and just have a neutral balance, if she would have gone low, I had faith in myself to either get my hand down or get a foot out, and she went high. So again, like you said, the load helped me big time, and it was just a little push outside. So
yeah, and the whole point, and what you were saying is, had you a couple years ago, you might have tried to steal more space.
Totally.
Instead of paying attention that she's loading the shoe. And
Right.
So you're going to get caught moving forward, and that ball's going to go right by you, because to
Right.
switch your energy and to switch your positioning in that while you're moving forward is another incredibly impossible thing to do.
Right.
You could get lucky, but the fact that you stole the space you got set, wait forward and everything. Yeah. Now you're in position to make any kind of save you need to make.
Absolutely.
I'm seeing Omar's face right here because he's deep in thought. I love the face right here. Remember, so a couple days ago when we had Memo on, and he talked about neutral position, right, with the hands and the feet, so they can both be active in the save. Omar, kind of break down kind of how Jane's shape right here is allowing for that load that either way she can go with either hands or feet.
I don't know. I would say like most of the saves are made with it from the movement. I think because, like she said, a lot of times or in the past she had been kind of caught by still moving or not allowing herself to get set. A lot of times people take themselves out of saves before they even have a chance to influence the play because of their movement is so choppy and sloppy, and they're coming in so hot without actually slowing their body down that you can't be in a neutral stance to use your feet or your hands. Exactly. And I think, like she said, watching film on yourself and being able to self-critique, which I think a lot of young goalkeepers don't do enough. I think I read a quote yesterday saying like the best players want to be told the truth. And I think that is what a lot of coaches nowadays don't do, even myself included. There are times where I maybe sugarcoat a little too much. But like Jane said, you have to watch your own footage to understand. Yeah, I know Saskia.
Not me.
No, but I think, again, it's important in that in her save right there, the fact that she's even saying, had it gone to the feet, I still would have felt comfortable getting those feet off from underneath me. And I think, again, it's always, that's why I tell people, if you have a broken wrist or anything that's upper body, you can still go outside and put like almost, let's say 8 by 24, not 24, but like 8 yards across, 24 yards across. What is it? 24 feet. Sorry, not 24 yards. That's a big goal. 24 feet. And you can cross step from point A to point B. And film yourself and see what your body shape looks like when you're slowing your body down into that set. Put a flat cone down and move your body from point A to point B and see if you're leaning or falling over, and it'll be very, very telling. And I think, like Jane said, the important part is getting from one part of the goal to the next, but understanding where that ball is with the visual cue of slowing yourself down so you can get into a neutral stance, and then your feet and hands can come into play.
But by the way, I saw Jane's face right there. She's like,
24
oh,
yards is a
that's
lot.
that's how those Pro GK Academy videos are done. They cheat it. They make a 24-yard goal.
I have a lot to shoot at. Yeah.
Jane, I have a question for you. Is that so? As we're trying to train this, I think a lot of goalkeeper coaches who are listening right now are probably asking to themselves, so what activities can my goalkeepers do to develop kind of that neuromuscular response? And because one of the reasons honestly I wanted to have you on this too is because I saw a video you did on your training regimen in the off season, and I thought it was absolutely phenomenal.
I hope it was good.
I mean, no, it was awesome. It was awesome. It was making me feel like, man, I need to get into the gym right now. I need to get training. Where my box jump's going to go. But I want a lot of young goalkeepers, and I'm thinking maybe even in the show notes, I kind of want to put a link to that there, because I want them to kind of see the work that you did to make this happen. It doesn't just happen, by just training on the field. So kind of like, what activities would you suggest?
I really think it's just attention to detail and focus. As simple as that sounds. I know my breakaways, 1v1s, closing space, shots within 6 to 8 yards is a weakness of mine. And I know 99% of goals now are scored within 12 yards. So I've known that stat for a couple of years now, and it's something I really, really want to perfect. And so for me, I really broke it down. I mean, when the block and the spread became this big trend, I was like, okay, I want to nail it. And I have yet to perfect it, but I've gotten so much better in the last year and a half than when I originally first started and learned about the block. So for me, I just told my coach, I was like, I want you to treat me like I'm a first grader, and we're going to literally walk through it, and literally attention to detail, every step, every movement, every body positioning I did, everything I wanted to be corrected. And I filmed it all and was able to watch it all. And then we would go back the next day and redo it all. And so as the days went on, it was as simple as a coach dribbling at me, going back to load his strike, and then me either blocking, spreading, you name it. So it just became so simple. And I just told him, I was like, listen, I need it simple. And then once I nail the simplicity of it, then we can go live and put it into an actual game or, a 5v5 setting. So for me, I'd really just start with something so simple, whether it is someone dribbling and then shooting, whether it's you defending, just all technique, whether it's you defending, 2 cones right and left of you, and you've got to figure out a way to move, whether it's closing space and then stopping and being balanced. I think a lot of young goalkeepers, especially, and myself included a few years ago, we're so eager to just go, but then once you slow down and stop, you're not really balanced. You're still falling forward and your weight has no movement right or left. So I think for the keepers out there, if you're going through a drill and the coach says, okay, set when the shooter is about to shoot, really set. And I mean, if you're in the incorrect position, but you attempt to make the save and you make the save, and the coach is like, well, you're in the wrong position. I'm like, I think that's on the coach's fault, because they did exactly what they were supposed to do. So I think I think the coach has to know what they're trying to work on, and the coach shouldn't cheat the keeper. I've had that happen to me a few times. If a coach says get set when the shooter's about to shoot, I'm going to get set no matter where I am. So I think it's really attention to detail, though.
It's better to be set and out of position than moving.
Exactly. So I think it's the attention to detail and the keepers knowing exactly what they're working on and really focusing on just those tiny details, whether it is 1 or 2 steps off the angle, 1 or 2 steps closing space, your shape within your hands and your feet. I think it's just really little details.
I totally agree. And we've talked about that in the sense of, don't just, kids are so literal, how I feel about that. And coaches out there that are watching and stuff, if you want to teach the spread or teach the block or something like that, you have to teach the kid why and when to use it. You know what I mean? Like I see these kids, they'll come in and they'll do the spread and it's 10 yards away. I'm like, that's awesome. Great. What are you doing that for? That's the only thing they know how to do. And that's what, their other coach told them. You got to know when to use things. Start with the technique of things, and then get in this when you can in different situations, and realize when to use what's in your arsenal at the right time.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you brought up a really, really good point. And I think I love what you said in regards to the simplicity thing, because, Omar, I think that's something that we took from quarantine, is that sometimes coaches are just overcomplicating it for the goalkeeper, thinking that's the only way that they're going to benefit from it is if they make it, oh, it's got to be game scenario, it's got to be game realistic or whatever. But if you're trying to work on a specific thing like loading, keep it simple, right?
I say it all the time.
Yeah, I know, 100%. Go ahead, Saskia, go ahead.
No, I was laughing.
Oh, but no, yeah, keep it super simple. And I think, again, like I've been trying to, again, keep it simple, but like leave every session, or like come into every session with an idea of what my goal is for that session. And I feel like by keeping it simple and leaving with like actual tangible evidence that simplicity was really doubled down in that session, I think that's where you really make the foundations and like really work the groundwork. And I think a lot of I've been doing since the quarantine is, yes, I love doing game realistic stuff. Yes, different levels. And
did you just freeze, Omar?
He froze.
He froze.
For repetitions, I need it. Oh, still?
And you need you definitely need some new Wi-Fi too.
No.
I'll help you out. I think the thing is when you can't go through with drills, like you have a drill in your mind and this is how I want everything to go. But if your kids, we're talking about kids here, don't have the simple basics down, don't have an understanding of why they're doing it and what they're doing it, you can't put them in a fluffed up drill that they're not getting it. Like, stay simple with your footwork, stay simple with your whatever handling and everything like that. It's not that difficult. You see everybody's so inundated with all this stuff on Instagram and on everything and YouTube, and it's like, well, I have to put my coaching session together like that. No, you don't. No, you don't.
Yeah.
Teach the kid how to catch the ball first. Start somewhere and you can grow from there. But if they don't get it, then there's no reason putting together some crazy session.
Yeah. And am I back?
Yes.
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. No, again, I had a conversation with someone today, and I told them that I recently watched footage of myself, I think when I was like 14, and I was looking at it.
The chipping Omar, the 8-0 Omar.
No, I was better. At 14. At like 11, I was pretty bad. But no, but you watch that footage and you start realizing that your technical and tactical awareness of the game did not happen overnight. And I think, like Saskia said, is like with social media, and especially that's why I haven't really been posting that much, is because a lot of what I've been doing for the longest time is to show the best of everything without understanding that those repetitions that are the most basic repetitions, just services into the box, understanding the goalkeeper needs to work on their timing, but that's not flashy enough for social media. So that's why I've been like, you know what, I'm just going to work on the basics, substance stuff, not post anymore, because I haven't posted as much, but like really just focus on the basics with my goalkeepers. And if it means it suffers from my social media stuff, great, I don't care. But like I got way too fixated on trying to make everything so dramatic. And I think, like Saskia said, it's like it's a blessing and a curse, but it turned into a curse for me where my mind was fixated on this drill needs to be like this, and if they can't figure it out, we're going to do it until they do. When it was, no, I need to switch it up in the middle of the session and adjust, because like I said, it needs to have substance so the goalkeepers walk out of there and go, oh, I got those reps today and I wasn't perfect, but I got the reps and I know what I need to work on. So it was less about me being the selfish one and more about they need to actually develop. And unfortunately, it's trial and error, and as coaches as well, you figure that out with practice. And I luckily have good people like you, Mike, who will call me out on my stuff, which sometimes I'm like, okay, all right, dude, take it easy. But other times I'm like, no, I needed to hear that because it's not doing justice for myself and to the kids. So it's good to have that constructive feedback, which a lot of people I don't think want nowadays.
Oh, Omar, you're more than welcome to contact Saskia instead if you want. So.
No, I think it's going to be even worse.
I'll give you some feedback.
Saskia, I know you need to get
I'll
on
make
this.
You flinch.
I know you need to get. I know you need to get on this call. So, is there anything kind of wanting to add to the conversation before?
Nothing.
Before you hop out.
Absolutely not. It's just Jane, I wish we could stay on more. So please come back and totally on the same page. And that's what I love more and more. It lets me know I'm not too old, and I still kind of know what I'm doing. Still kind of know what I'm doing. But so enjoy watching you, and good luck season. Good luck with national team. Everything. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on you.
Thank you, and thanks so much for having me. It's an honor to talk to you and hear your thoughts. And
thanks for
all you're doing for our league. It's huge, and can't thank you enough.
Awesome. Can't
We
wait.
don't want any tampering, but we'll get you at Angel City, all right?
Yeah, there you go.
Careful. Media comms is on this call right now as we speak. So, so this is recorded right now. It is recorded right now. Omar's gonna end up in like ESPNW like tomorrow or something like that.
All right, so I'm gonna
my
go.
Wi-Fi couldn't have cut out, huh?
You guys keep talking. Jane, I will talk to you again soon, okay?
All right, so we'll see you in a bit. Okay, so let's continue here. Jane, so Wesley Bernard, goalkeeper coach over at Atlanta United, he's got a question for you right here. And he says, as a young goalkeeper, that he did a lot of speed and agility work to get better with his footwork. And if in the game, there's a lot of decision making that goes into all of that movement with your feet. Would you recommend doing speed and agility in isolation to get better with your feet and for your decision making, or would you rather incorporate it into your goalkeeper training?
Oh, that's a great question. Wow, I know some of my lifting sessions, 2 out of the 4 lifts I have per week are all plyo and footwork drills, and that has nothing to do with the ball. I don't have soccer gloves on or goalkeeper gloves on. I don't have soccer ball with me. It's just footwork and plyos. But then sometimes when I train in the off season, like this past off season, I really harped on my footwork. So it was all incorporated in the drills, but I made sure, if I had to go through, 3 different movements before I made a save, those 3 movements had to be picture perfect. And I wasn't ever rushed by the server. A lot of times I feel like even now, these past 2 days in training, I've been a bit rushed where my footwork becomes maybe 75% instead of 95%, where I would much rather not be rushed and I get the footwork, I nail the footwork, and then I move into a save or a set where I have to then transition from the footwork to then being balanced and stopping that footwork. It's a great question. I don't really know the correct answer. I would say a bit of both, to be honest. But I do think, every session should incorporate more footwork than you might think, because the more you can work on moving, fast feet, getting momentum, and then stopping and then being balanced, that's the most game realistic, because that's what we have to do.
Yeah. I think you brought up a good point right there. And Omar, I kind of want to get your feedback on this because, I think the trend has been lately is that everything has to be game scenarios. Everything has to be game scenarios. But even when we were watching well, I don't want to use the term progression because I know we're trying to move away from that in modern goalkeeper coaching. But the session that Phil Whedon, did with the Philadelphia Union, right, that he showed us last week, Omar, where just simple pattern footwork at the beginning. And just, you're talking about, obviously like yourself, the highest level goalkeepers in the world, and they still need that kind of that movement preparation in order to kind of get ready for the activity, right? Are you there, or did you freeze? Omar? You're there.
I think I froze. I think I'm gonna shift. You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Did you hear what we said?
Hold on. I'm gonna shift. Yeah, I think I'm gonna shift to my phone, okay? Give me a second. I'm so sorry.
No worries, man. It's all good. It's all good. So, all right, well, then, Jane, I'll throw that to you. So, is that something that you guys do at Houston Dash, before you kind of get into any game scenarios, is make sure that you've got those movement patterns down and that you've got, kind of that activation ready to go?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I honestly think getting to a quote unquote game scenario in a goalkeeper training, I call it phase 3. It's the final phase of the session before you move in with the team. A lot of times phase 3 is the most live scenario. I'm a goalkeeper who, if we don't get to phase 3, I'm okay with it, because I would much rather get the basics, the activation, the footwork, everything feeling good. And then if I'm thrown into team training, haven't seen a live shot yet, I'm actually okay with that, because I know at least I feel and I've gotten the footwork done. I've completed it correctly. I'm not rushed. So for me, I know the live settings and making it quote unquote game realistic is, like you said, very trendy. But at the same time, at this level, we might not need that. It's just going back to basics.
Yeah, no. And I think that is, the key right there is that a lot of goalkeepers think that at a certain level, well, if it's not going into the game, then why am I doing this whatsoever? But it's the same thing as like when you going to the gym, you're like, well, I'm not doing compound movements. I'm doing simple movements right here. Am I not going to do this? You know? What is, dude, I think some alien just joined us here. What's going on?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can't see you.
All right. Sorry. I know. We'll go with this for now.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So what was your question, Mike, about using footwork earlier?
Well, Jane was just talking about the fact that, and I'm just going to just throw it back into there, is that basically Jane was saying she's okay with if they don't go into phase 3, into game scenarios, that she still can get something out of just training in isolation.
Yeah, no, I think, again, we talked about, you said footwork and I like to sometimes still use hurdle work. I still like to use, coordination on the foot speed ladder. I think understanding that goalkeepers at the young ages and young stages, you need those fast twitch muscles to, I guess, understand what it needs to do when they hit the ground and picking them back up. And when we talk about quick shift and we talk about, quick movements, or the striker just took a big touch and you have to advance, 3-4 yards, but at the same time stop on a dime. It's understanding what that body stability looks like. And I don't think you get that only with training game-like stuff. I think you have to build a foundation, and that starts with ladder work. The Bosu ball, for example, even just, stabilizing on a Bosu ball and understanding how to control your body so you're not falling forward or, too narrow or too wide. Even with, ladders as well. It's just like, quick ladder, and then maybe you set for a volley, and then quick ladder, then you set for a volley. But at least your feet have an understanding, and your body has an understanding of your whole body moving in unison and working together. So I think it's super important to not get fixated on progressions alone or game-like scenarios alone. But at the young age, even at Jane's age and at the professional level, you have to build a baseline so the goalkeepers have an understanding when all things go to crap and stuff hits the fan, you have a foundation that you've built through training and exercises that weren't only game-like stuff, but that you can actually fall back on that and then use that to get yourself and build yourself back to your confidence.
I want to bring this up right now, and Jane, we're going to put this clip up right here, so you get to relive the NWSL championship one more time. I'm sure you haven't done that plenty in your head already. This is the McCaskill free kick in the 66th minute. As I'm sure you're very aware. I mean, the reason I want to show this right here is because I want kind of all the young goalkeepers to kind of see basically. So the ball's moving, wasn't it? So it was basically, so it was dropping. Because you were so stable in your movement, you were able to react to the ball, all of a sudden start rising, and then you were able to get that simple push-off right there. And I want everyone to kind of see that right here. So the ball comes in, you're in position, you recognize it, you're going, the ball's dropping, it starts rising, and you go, okay, I can still go right there. If you had overcommitted low, you would have been done right here, right?
Totally. I think looking back, should have caught it, but that's okay. I think footwork wise, again, like you said, it's not about guessing. It's just get to the ball. If something happens, whether it's a deflection or the ball drops, the ball spins, you name it, there's got to be a way to correct yourself. And I think that all comes with that neutral balance that you should always have in your footwork. If you're doing a ladder, like Omar was talking about, can you change direction if the coach calls something, or can you slide to the left and slide to the right with no hesitation, no pauses? And I think, just like you said, if the ball dips, you've got to be able to recorrect and then get the push over the bar.
Yeah. Omar, thoughts on this play right here? Play it again.
Yeah, no, I think, again, it with footwork and shifting your body and all that stuff, it's like, I call it calculated anticipation, where in that scenario, I'm sure you've probably seen footage or you've seen enough free kicks to know, okay, I'm going to leave that space open, and I'm also going to be ready to shoot when I need to shoot, or shift my feet when I need to shift. So I call it calculated anticipation. The best goalkeepers do this so well, where you're going to anticipate, but it's probably going to go where you want it to go. But at the same time, you also have to respect that maybe that striker puts it back the other way. So it's being ready on that front foot, maybe for a through ball too, or even on this free kick where it's going to go to that top left, but being able to have that foot ready to shift over without compromising or leaving your side vulnerable. So what I liked about that was you knew where it was going, but you kept your feet underneath you. You didn't cheat, and once that ball came, you reacted. And I think that's the best thing we can ask from any goalkeeper at any age, any level, is see it, react, but put yourself in the best position so that when you do see it, you can react.
Totally.
Jane, I like the fact that you were like holding yourself accountable and you felt like, well, you know, I feel like I should have caught it. But like in the moment, the risk versus the reward, if you don't feel like you're going to get a clean handle, isn't it better just to play it over?
Absolutely. That's what I did in the game. I got two hands to it and didn't feel great about it. So I just threw it off the bar. And at the end of the day, I knew we were up. I knew it was the final. I knew we had roughly 25 minutes left. I was like, risk reward. I'd rather defend a corner because I had faith in myself and the team in front of me to defend a corner. And I knew we'd been playing well all game. So again, like you said, it's all kind of gamesmanship and what's going on in the game. It wasn't the cleanest play by any means, but I think, again, it got the job done, so I can't complain.
Sorry, I'm distracted by Omar's. He's using the template virtual background on his phone of the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah.
San Francisco going on right there. Well, awesome. So Jane, how are you doing on time, by the way?
Great.
You're good.
Doing
You're good
great.
on time. Okay, cool.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let's talk about this right here because I think this is one of the biggest issues I have a lot of times. Saskia was always talking about the literality of, I don't know if that's a word, maybe it is. Maybe Paloma, who's a communications person, can tell us if that's an actual word. Kids take things literally, and when you say things like balls of your feet, like they go so far forward that they end up being on their tippy toes. Can you kind of explain kind of how, like, why in the load it's so important to make sure that you still have weight inside the foot rather than everything on the forward part of the foot, but actually have a little bit of weight still dropped, if that makes any sense?
Yeah, totally. I think having the weight towards the inside a bit, not completely on your toes, like you said, allows us to move right, left, forward, back. If you're on your tippy toes, you can't really move. I mean, it's just like being on your heels. You're just kind of in concrete. So for me, being on the balls of your feet, you know, I always tell kids if I'm coaching them, I just want your heels off the grass a bit. You know, they don't need to be crazy out of the grass. I don't want to see you, you know, be a ballerina. I just want them just a bit off the blades of the grass so you're able to move right or left, forward, and back. For me, the idea of having your knees kind of come in and having your feet kind of go in where the weight's at the balls of your feet on the inside is a bit newer to me. I do it naturally. I don't think I was ever taught that, though, to be honest, but I do think that comes from being neutral and balanced in your set shape. And I think if someone is balanced in their set shape, that will naturally happen. So I think it's about having the kid realize, or whoever, having the keeper realize that this natural or this neutral balanced shape, that's your reset button. And then can you move from there? And whatever shape you're in, that needs to be the most efficient. So definitely, I think going on your tippy toes puts you back in concrete, just like if you're on your heels, it puts you back in concrete. So can you find that kind of happy medium where your heels might be a little bit out of the ground and again, you're moving right and left?
Yeah. And Omar, I mean, is this something that you kind of worked on with younger goalkeepers, is to understanding that, like, it's about, yes, you want to have contact with the ground, but you want to have as minimal contact with the ground so that when you step, you can really drive into the ground. Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of. I think, again, that's it's to each their own, but I think video analysis and like showing them the video on the spot is super important because a lot of kids have never even assessed their own film, professional film. They don't really understand how to combine what they're feeling to what they're actually doing. And I think a lot of times pairing those two together of saying, look, this is what you actually look like. And you may think you're on the balls of your feet, but you're actually on your heels here. And then when they actually see it, a light bulb clicks in their head and they go, oh my God, okay, now I know when I actually feel like that, it's not looking the right way. So maybe I need to adjust maybe the feeling so that it looks better, or maybe just the way it looks so it feels better. And I think that's what I've been doing lately with the young kids, is just showing them on the spot what it looks like so they can, adjust. And I love what Jane said about that sometimes you may be too much on your toes, too much on your heels, but finding that balance in between is super important. And I think a lot of times our body and like psychologically will automatically recorrect our body shape to where it's natural for us. And I think a lot of times people will be too far on their toes, and then as a shot comes, their body will reset them back to, I guess, neutral. And sometimes they'll be way on their heels and their body will reset them back to neutral as well. But in that reset, you're wasting a second. And by the time you get reset, that ball's already past you, or you're reacting a second late. And instead of catching it with a comfortable collapse dive or, smother, you're pushing it wide for a rebound to get into, rebound or a corner kick. So I think, like Jane said, finding that neutral and starting at neutral and being stubborn and disciplined to stay neutral so you don't have to recorrect and you don't waste that extra second.
Yeah, Jane, I want to ask you this because, you're the one playing right now. As a player, does it benefit you to have multiple angles to be able to break down your movements as opposed to just seeing it from one angle? Because I think that's one of the things that Omar, has been discussed a lot. Like when we had Memo on from Portland Timbers on Monday, he talked about how he likes to make sure that he's cutting film from different angles so the goalkeeper doesn't start seeing everything from one point of view.
Yeah, I definitely think it's important. We only have access to one camera, so I only get one in training. So you just work with what you get. But I think, our coach does a pretty good job of moving the camera to where he thinks is the correct angle. And they're all different. So in his defense, I do get all different angles, but it's all different drills. But I do think seeing different angles is super helpful. One angle might see something that another angle doesn't, and vice versa. So I think that's a pro and a con. I just think personally, if I can just see myself in any way, shape, or form, whether the camera's behind me, in front of me, off an angle, you name it, I can always pick out something that I can work on. So for me, if I can just have a camera that's perfect, I'm not really too picky. So any film, I think, is such a learning tool. I think a lot of young kids think of it as, you're bad at this, you're bad at this, you're bad at this. But I think film is such an opportunity to get better. And it's a really exciting lesson to see yourself and say, okay, I did well at this, but I could be so much better if I just fix this little tiny thing that you might not see. And the coach might not even see it in person. It's all seen on film.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's too is, and by the way, I didn't mean to put you on the spot there in regards to the camera thing. I was like, you're like, actually, we only have one camera, so thank you for me having to bring that up like that. I meant multiple views, not multiple cameras, multiple views of different angles of activities. But I think balls of the feet, to be honest with you, and I don't know how you two feel, Omar. I don't know how you feel about this. I think that's a really difficult thing to explain to kids. I don't think they understand what balls of the feet are. Is there any type of language, Omar, we can use that's better than balls of the feet for younger goalkeepers?
Yes. I mean, for me, it's like I just say try and just feel natural. I mean, that's the terminology that I use, where you're not overbearing, where you're shoulder dominant or quad dominant, and you're not sitting back where you're hamstring dominant. And I think if you can find a way where you can feel as if you're evenly distributing the weight to your hamstrings and to your quads, right in between there and finding that happy medium. That's why I think as coaches, we got to give players as much time and as many reps as they need to combine what, I guess, the way, not how it should look ideally, but the way it feels. And if they can find a way where it feels good and they feel light and they feel, athletic, that's what we should be going for. Versus, like, for me, I try to, have goalkeepers adapt to a little bit more of a wider stance so they can get, 1 or 2 notches lower. But at the same time, like, if you don't feel comfortable going with the wide and it's working for you, then I'm not gonna force it. But I just, give them the idea to let's try and find a good ground where you feel athletic, and then let them run from there. So I think that's what it is. What I would say is just try to feel athletic. That's what I would use. So
just be Jane Campbell. Is basically what you're saying. Is just be athletic. Just
you see her? That's the one. That's what I want you guys to do.
That's the way we do it. Actually, it's really funny, Jane. So when before the Challenge Cup, we were doing this thing. We did this whole keeper wars thing where we were having to choose our top choices, and we were breaking down different tapes on Y Scout and everything like that. And it was like every single save, I was like, oh my gosh, geez, like I want to show keepers what Jane's doing here, because like you make it look so effortless with the movement. It's so efficient. No, I mean, honestly, it was just you're just very explosive. I wish I had your explosiveness. What I'm trying to do is live vicariously through you right now. I want to ask you this. I want to ask because one of the things that happens when it comes to push-off a lot of times is kids think that means that they have to dive. They have to get into a horizontal shape in a push-off. But as you've showcased right there in a lot of those plays right there, loading into a push-off doesn't necessarily mean that you're going into a horizontal. It's all based on the flight of the ball, right? And if the ball's not breaking away from you at such an angle, there's no reason for you to go horizontal, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and one thing I've learned being with the US, that's such a, that's such a, it, the ball flies at such a pace that you can't really compare to any other level. When I was there and I was younger, I would always try and catch everything so clean, and then I would dive when I needed to dive. But then I was always taught like you should dive all the time. You should always stand. So when we were doing volleys or shots into the pocket, I would always try and stand, but I'd bobble them a lot. And the coach was just like, "Why don't you just dive and get your body behind it?" And I was like, "Oh, interesting." So now when I think of a load, just like you said, even though maybe a ball is just coming right off the shoulder and I'm diving, the load was to get ready to catch. It wasn't the dive necessarily. The dive was just the safety net, so I didn't bobble the ball. So for me, that's like the first thing that comes to my mind is the load for me was getting ready to embrace the ball when it comes in, hands out, soak the ball in like a sponge. And then if you fall on it, just like a front smother, you still have to load for the front smother, then you just fall on it for the safety net. So same thing if you're tipping the ball over the bar, right? You're set, load, pop up, and it's nice and easy. So for me, the load is seeing the ball and then bringing the ball in and absorbing it as best you can. And then whatever happens after that, whether you fall on it, do a somersault, you name it, that's just the safety net.
I think you've just made the clip of the week. I think that literally is going to be cut and be a video of you talking about that. I know I absolutely love that. I'd never heard it explained like that before, and that makes so much sense in regards to Omar. You brought up, who was it who brought up? Was it Anthony White who brought up quality on the ball?
No, it was James. I forget his name, but yeah, it's somebody else.
Okay, so somebody else is amazing with the quality on the ball, because I think that's what Jane was saying right there, which is so great that basically for any young goalkeeper out there listening, this is a pro right here telling you that it's about making the save comfortable, right? That's basically what you're trying to say, is make the save comfortable so that you contain the ball in whatever shape you need to take. Omar, is that something that you work on with keepers?
Of course. Yeah. I think, again, the ideal thing for us is to make sure our goalkeepers hold everything, or if they do decide to parry it, making sure they put it into good areas. But again, it's just making sure that you have good balance leading into those saves, so you have options once that ball does come to you. And I think what I've been telling my goalkeepers is, like, I use the term fast approach, slow arrival. Like, whatever we do as goalkeepers, that's definitely something we need to, be very much aware of, is move quick to your spot, but slow down your body so you have time to set, time to stabilize, time to have balance. But once you slow down into that shot, your mind is not shut off. Your body can be calm, but your mind needs to be as sharp as ever. And I think a lot of times people, like you said, my terminology can sometimes be a bit misleading, where I say fast approach, and when I say slow arrival, a lot of people feel like, oh, take my foot off the gas, I'm going to slow down into it, everything's going to be easier from there. It's like, no, you're going to slow your body down so you can stabilize and have balance, but your mind needs to be completely sharp, so that if I do, take a bigger touch and you need to reset or, shuffle your feet a little bit more, you have the ability to be aware of that, quickly shift your feet, don't overbalance or overshift, and from there be able to make a save. So that's what I would say is, yes, I try to use that a lot, but it's those trigger words to help, young goalkeepers understand specifically what you're trying to go for, and hopefully they understand it.
Yeah, you just brought up a really good point, and as we start wrapping up right here, Jane, I want to bring that up with you, is when he's talking about the fast approach and the slow arrival, and we saw a little bit of that, in the earlier clip that we were showing of you on the play from Weber, is that it's the step into the set for the load, as opposed to just stop, try to load, and then go, because you're gonna get stuck right there, right? You need that step into the load.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the important part is making sure that step isn't this ginormous step. It's got to be a little baby step to then pop to a set, and then you might have to move 1 or 2 steps right or left, depending on the person's touch, depending on pressure, you name it. So I think having your set shape and then being able to move just ever so little right or left, forward, back in that set shape with little steps, I think to me, that's what it would mean to have a slow arrival, is to be nice and compact in your movements, nothing too big, nothing too, out of there. It's just very calm, very calculated, and you're just very, very relaxed.
Yeah, no, the relaxation part, I love that fact. And I think that's one of the toughest things with kids, when Omar, I know you've done this so many times. It's that frantic energy coming out on, especially on a through ball, on a through ball. It's that frantic energy. And then Jane, you've seen it. And so you're like, dude, you're like, what are you running? Like 100-meter sprint? Like you're going to go past the ball, you know, and you're not going to have enough space to be able to have that gap, that cushion gap in order to be able to make a save, because you're going to be too close to the player, you know, or you're going to overrun the ball. As we start wrapping up right here, the last thing I want to say to you, Jane, is for you, is there such a thing as too low a starting shape? Because I know you said about making sure that you're comfortable before you load. Making sure you're comfortable before you load. Well, a lot of kids read that as hands on the hips, let me walk, and then I'm going to, now it's time to get ready, and by then it's too late. So can you kind of like break that down and make it a little bit more specific so that they don't say, well, Jane Campbell said, you know, that you've got to be comfortable before you load.
Yeah, I think a rule of thumb for me whenever sorry, that's my dog's collar. I think when I teach young kids a set shape, I always say, okay, just stand straight up and then just bend a tiny bit forward and just let your hands go. Don't even worry about them. And then your hands are going to dangle in front of you, and then just pick your hands up in a shape where you, out of your peripherals, can see your hands, whether they're lower, whether they're higher. I obviously don't have my hands too up high. I know a couple keepers who do have them way up high, and that's totally fine. But for me, I just like to be able to see him. If I'm looking at you on the screen, I can see him in my peripherals, and I know that's a good set shape for me. Biggest thing I've learned over the years is I like to roll my shoulders, and I think that really helps keep my head forward. So if I roll my shoulders and feel a stretch in my back, I know I'm in a good shape. So a lot of times when I'm training, you'll actually see me roll my shoulders forward really quickly, and that is a cue to me to make sure my head and my shoulders are forward to make sure that I'm balanced. But I do think there's such thing as setting too low. I mean, my gosh, if someone's, 20, 22 yards away shooting, there's no reason to be super, super low, right? I think the lowest shape you should ever be in is when you're on a 1v1 or a breakaway, or something's coming in for a through ball and it's a little slip ball. I think that's your lowest shape. But other than that, if it's, I think I look at it as a gradual scale. If you're 1v1, you're pretty low. If you're within maybe 12 yards, you're about medium. And then once you're about 18, you're kind of more upright in that neutral set shape. So I think, and it obviously differs. If you're 6'5", you might have a way different shape than me on a breakaway, which I'm 5'9", so that makes perfect sense. So, but I think rule of thumb is if you just lean a bit forward, roll the shoulders forward, and pick up those hands so you can see them in your peripherals, I think that's probably your best neutral shape.
Yeah. Omar, the man in the darkness, anything you want to add to that? Can you hear us?
You know what? I think my thing shut off again.
All right.
I'm sorry.
No worries,
my
man.
connection's a mess.
We'll start wrapping up. This has been entertaining for everybody right there. All right, guys. Remember, so Jane, if anybody out there, if they kind of want to, first off, one of the awesome things I think is the fact that when I found out that you're coaching right now, and I've seen this with some other goalkeepers, who are playing at the professional level, and working with youth academies and all that sort of stuff. And I think that's absolutely phenomenal. The fact that you're, despite the amount of time that you have to put into your own career, that you're willing to give back like that, I think is absolutely fantastic. If anybody out there is interested in kind of like, your private coaching, or they're young keepers that are just looking for advice, like where's the best place for people to reach out to you?
Or sorry, on my Instagram, you can shoot me a message, or in my bio, there's actually an email. Go ahead and just shoot me an email.
Wow, you're brave. You got your email in your bio.
Yep.
Look at that.
Giving it to everyone, giving it to people.
Hey, that's important. And remember, guys, if you have a guest suggestion or a topic suggestion, contact at Inside the 18. That's the number 18media.com. Shout out to all the people that said we need to have Jane Campbell on the show. Believe me, I've been trying to make it happen. Was not ignoring Jane in any way whatsoever. She was a little bit busy winning a championship. Okay, guys, you got to give her a little bit of a break right there. If you want to reach out to Omar Zeenni, as you know, you got to reach out to at the worst Wi-Fi in California. No, at Pro GK Academy _ at Goalkeeper Podcast on all social media platforms. If you want to reach out to me, my comedy stuff's back on it, guys. It's happening again. A show tonight at 6 o'clock Pacific time at Michael Majid on all social media platforms. That's all the time on Inside the 18, and we are out. Later, guys.